Hey, so thanks for watching today. Today I'm reviewing this Lanmu Bottle Cutter as seen here. This is the actual cutter part of it here, and the blade is on the tip right over here, the little round piece that you can see at the very edge of that. So this can be affixed the way it is, where it is flat there, kind of at an angle. The other way, it can go straight up vertical here. There's one other hole where you can basically rotate this top one to where it's sitting on top of the lower screw. And then you can see right here, there's these two holes there where you can put it out here a little further for a different type of bottle. So for your regular beer bottles and for like a wine bottle, that usually works pretty well. That's where I've kept it for mine. I'll show you here. We've also got this sandpaper that comes in the package, 400 rating there. It's waterproof, so you can use it afterward for rubbing down the rim of your glass. You'll also get this manual seen here. On the inside they've got a few illustrations and stuff. You can see how to adjust it here, as this basically shows you're just going to move the screws up and down, and you're just going to move that basically takes the bottle up and down, and then the blade will be a certain distance away there. So if your wine bottles, you're going to need it to be a little longer, beer bottles a little bit shorter. Here then it shows you how to score it, goes over their method of kind of hot cold bath to separate it, and then there for polishing it. So they've got their method here on this QR code if you just use that there. I'm going to show you today, though, too, how to use my method that I've come up with that's been pretty successful as well. So I've got this set right now for the bottle I'm going to show you. I'll show you how you do kind of adjust it when you have to. But basically the cutter's right here. I want my bottle to lay right there, right where it's going to be cut. So the way this is lying right now, this is going to be just above kind of where the label is and everything, kind of right where I want it. So to actually score this, you're going to just lay it here and then give a little bit of firm pressure down, and you should be able to hear as I'm doing this. And kind of here. I like to go around a second time. You just need to make sure, you can see it gets a little louder on the second time because you're going over the same line. I like to make sure then you just have to be on the same plane and everything, because if you go around it a second time and your score line's a little bit off from where it was the first time, that's where you might run into a few problems with an uneven score line and the bottle might not break evenly. So, got a little bit of residue here. I'm going to wipe off some of the flakes of the glass. So, you can kind of see here then, there's my score line straight around. So that is basically what this machine does. The other score line's right above the label there. So it's going to score your glass like that. It doesn't actually cut it. Like I said, that's just done by putting the firm pressure right over the blade there. Say you want to do a wine bottle. You're just going to unscrew these far ends on the left here. And you kind of keep unscrewing there. Set this one to match. So you're going to slide this piece down, slide the second piece down to meet it, and then now these two are the ones that you got to tighten up. The bottom one's good, then do the top one. Tighten that up. So you might want, depending on how tall you want your bottle to be, you might want to move it down all the way to the end here for like a wine bottle. I'll show you here. So for this one, that's going to cut it basically right through here. So you'll end up with a glass basically like that. And the way it's set now, I would cut it about right there. So you can obviously go a little higher if you want it put it all the way to the end, and then it'll be more of the full tall glass. And then I'd recommend removing the label before you actually score it. But I'll show you here on this one kind of my method for separating it then. So just to give you an idea though, here's a couple other bottles that I did. You see it's nice and smooth here on the top. So I've cut that one and separated it. Just did this one a bit ago. The Corona bottles work nice because those ones actually have the print on them too. They're not just fake stickers or anything. So those ones usually look pretty cool. And then if you want, you have the tops then too, if you want to use those for anything. Here's a couple of the wine bottles that I've done previously. You see a little bit taller on the right. Alright, so my method's really simple. Other people I've seen, they use acetone and soak a string, put it around the score line here, and then they'll light that on fire, and then they'll kind of use water and stuff to cool it down. I've also seen people using boiling water where they're going to dip it into this point, and then cold water bath, dipping it in there and kind of alternating back and forth till it cracks. My method is real simple. I basically just use a tea light here, and then I've also got some ice that I'll use. And so if I use the ice, and I'm going to get that in a second here, and but I'm going to start with the tea light here. With this tea light, I'm basically going to light this. I'm going to go right over the score line of the bottle here. So you're just going to go nice and slow along the score line. I'll usually do maybe about like 3 passes or so at a pretty slow speed. And you'll see this will get a little bit black just because I got the label on here. So like I said, I'd recommend taking the label off. This shouldn't hurt anything that I'm doing this with the label on. But the whole idea here is that you're basically stressing the glass along the line. You've created a weakness in it with your score line. See here. You've created a weakness in it there, so now that you're putting the heat and then the cold over it, you're stressing it. It's going to go from one extreme temperature to another, causing it to crack. And then if you have a good score line, it'll leave you with a nice clean break. So we'll keep going around here. But like I said, you might hear, kind of as you're doing this, you might hear like a tink or some crackling here and there. And that's just telling you kind of that it's starting to stress it a little bit. It's also good, like I have a little bit of residue water in here right now. Make sure I kind of get that out. You don't really want to have any water, anything in there as you're tilting your bottle around. It'll make it easier without that in there to have it actually heat up and crack well. So we'll do a couple more times here, and then I'm going to put the ice over it. So for wine bottles, I've done up to maybe like 3 or 4 times where I do this hot and then go to cold, and I'll repeat that about 4 times, sometimes just because the glass is a little bit thicker on those. With these ones, I've had times where I've actually only done the heat, and then the minute I kind of put it under with the ice cube, it'll actually go immediately and pop off. Right now it seems like I'm definitely going to have to at least use the ice, and then we'll see if it cracks during that. Otherwise we'll go back to the heat a little bit. I'll go just one more time around here, then I'm going to break out the ice. Okay, so I'm going to push this aside for right now. Bring over the ice here. Try with this piece. So basically just going to go right along that score line. You could hear it did crack a little bit. Oh, there we go. So that just separated there, and that just fell off. So you want to make sure you're doing that in a spot where it's not going to go anywhere, not going to have a long fall. So basically took those revolutions over the hot, just a couple times around with the ice cube, and now I've got my nice clean cut. So there's the top part. Let me show you here. Wipe off the residue from the smoke there. So this is actually not too bad right now, even to the touch. You can see that's a pretty clean cut there. What I usually follow that up with then is I'll have paper plate here, something just to show you quick. But I'll have my sandpaper. I'll dip this into the bowl of ice here just to get it a little bit wet. And then you can pretty much just going to turn there back and forth. Usually by doing that for a few minutes there, you get this where it's pretty smooth and you're able to actually drink out of it. So you can see there, if you have say I did that with like a Corona glass, lined up with something like this, after you sand it down, it's nice and smooth, so it's not going to cut me at all. And you can use basically a thicker sandpaper at first to really get it down. If you're picky, you can use a couple finer green sandpapers on to smooth the edges and everything. Mine, I've pretty much just used a pretty rough one, and then I've had a blunt edge there. It's good enough to drink out of, and everything looks pretty cool. So like I said, it might take a little bit longer for you on some of the other bottles if you're using a bigger one, but this thing's pretty nice. You're able to adjust it like I showed you any way you want. These things are pretty simple to adjust back and forth. Easy as just moving these around, sliding the pieces up and down, and then you're set to go. So if you have any questions, feel free to write something in the comment section. Definitely let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this if you liked it. And show you there, nice and easy to resize. But so far this has been the best method for me, just using that tea light and using some of the ice like that. It's pretty simple for a beer bottle like this. It's relatively quick and makes scoring and making your bottles pretty easy.